Most of you out there that watch my videos have seen my CZ75B stainless here. Well, tonight we're going to go on a little bit of an adventure together, you, me, and this gun. You see, I've never worked on a CZ gun before. I've never even taken them apart. But tonight I'm going to have to work on this one. It's become necessary. And no, it's not necessary because the gun is broken or something. It's necessary because I'm being persnickety. And there's something about this gun that I want to change. Something about this gun that I have been unhappy with ever since I got my new CZ75B Omega. And that is the hammer. If you look at my CZ75B Omega convertible here, you'll notice it has this angular hammer. It's more of like a triangle. It's actually kind of like half of a Superman shield here, the part that you see. And it's much nicer, I think, than that round hammer on the standard CZ75B. Every time I look at this gun now, all I see is that big stupid round hammer. I'm like, big stupid ugly round hammer. So I'm going to have to get rid of that. And to get rid of that, I bought this here. This is a Cajun Gunworks race hammer for the CZ75B in stainless. And as you can see, it has that similar angular shape to the hammer on my CZ75B Omega convertible. So what I'm going to have to do now is take this gun apart and see if I can get the hammer out of here without totally wrecking this gun. You're either going to see me successfully change out this hammer, or you're probably going to hear me weeping for the first time ever on camera because I really do like this gun. I don't want to tear it up, but once I get something in my noodle that I got to change it, I got to change it. And since I'm not liking that round hammer, I got to swap it out. So let's get this gun apart, get started on it, and see if this video turns out to be a triumph or a tragedy. Okay, the first thing I want to need to do is take the safety out, and there's a little spring there that has a little leg on it that goes over the safety that holds it in place. So I'm going to pry that up out of the way to take that off. Okay, that wasn't as easy to get under as I thought it would be. I had to wedge a little screwdriver under there. And now I'm going to try to pry off the left side of the safety here. And I don't want to mar the steel, so I'm going to use a popsicle stick that I have sharpened. I use these quite a bit. I eat a lot of popsicles. So I got a lot of them laying around. So now I'm just going to wedge that under there and see if I can pry it out. Okay, got it out. So far, so good. Now let's see if I can get the other side out. I don't know if it's supposed to do that or not. Oop. Something I pulled there gave way. Okay, I got that out. Now let's see how easily the firing control... Well, I guess that answers the question of how easily the firing control unit comes out. It pops out when you pull the hammer. So that part's done. I meant to do that, by the way. Next thing, we'll take this little leaf spring out. Something tells me I should have probably taken this out earlier, but I'm just now getting around to it. So let's get that out of there. And then I'm going to take out the little part down here, which is, looks like it's very similar to a, let me see if it pushes up. Yeah, it pushes up. This looks like it's very similar to a Beretta. So I'm going to push that up with something and then push that pin out. Oh, that just pushes right out. I thought that was going to be harder. Was not hard at all. Pushed right out. Okay, now I'm going to push this little thingamabobber here, this little pin that comes down beside the hammer here. Never liked this thing where it's at. It always looks funny seeing that little pin there, but I'm going to push that up out of here. Might have to push it a little further with a smaller punch here. There, got it out. It's a very tiny little pin, so don't lose that. And now that that's out, it looks like this little pin holding the hammer right here, the hammer pin, should fall right out. Oh yeah, that punches right out. I probably didn't have to use a punch. I probably could have just shaken it and that would have fallen out. Okay, so now I'm going to take the hammer out here and it just pops right out. So that came out pretty easily, doing pretty well so far. Okay, now I can just set the frame aside and work on the hammer assembly itself. Okay, first I need to take off these things. I need to take off the hammer strut and this little beaky, hooky looking little thing. I don't know what it's called. I'll call it the beakamajig. I think this has got to do with the double action feature of the trigger, but I'm going to take these off the old hammer and put them on the new hammer. So far, every roll pin on this gun is like falling out when you turn the gun over. Hopefully these will be no exception. Probably shouldn't say that. I'll probably jinx myself, but we'll see how easily these come out now. There's divots on both sides, so I'm not sure which direction it's actually supposed to come out in. Okay, it looks like I did jinx myself because these damn things don't want to move. Damn it, I'm beating the hell out of that thing. It ain't moving. Well, I guess I got it out far enough to get that out. Now I'll get this out of there. There, finally got the pin out. What a pain in the ass. Okay, I have started the pin in the new hammer. Now, one thing I have noticed about the new hammer and the old hammer here is the slot is different. If you look at them there, the one on the right, the old hammer has a smaller slot than the new hammer. That's going to give a little more play to that little plunger. I hope it isn't going to make much of a difference. Hope that's not going to be a problem. I want you to look at this shit. Talk about jinxing yourself. This thing just broke the tip off of a nail set trying to get the little pin back out. That's hardcore. Okay, I finally got it on there, and to be honest, I've never had so much trouble putting a piece back on in my entire life when working on a gun. This is ridiculous how tight these pins are. This does not have to be like this, CZ. Make these pins fit properly. That's ridiculous. Now to get this one out. Okay, it's together, and like I said, this was a pain in the ass. There was literally times where I didn't think this was going to happen. Now on the second pin, I wasn't quite as nice. I resorted to a full-size hammer and a concrete floor as a block. So got it back together now. Now all I got to do is put this back in the gun, reverse the process that I did to take it apart, and put it back together. Okay, put the hammer back in here and make sure I get the little beakamajig or whatever we want to call it there over that little part, and then line this back up with the hole. Pin back in there. This little pin back. Crap. Now there was something I wanted to show you before I put these back together. The difference between this hammer and the hammer I'm putting in. Now the hammer I'm putting in is a race hammer, not a regular hammer. If you're going to carry this gun, I probably wouldn't suggest a race hammer. You see that little ledge right there, that little notch, that little pointy piece sticking off the back right there? The sear rests under that. On the one I just put in, the race hammer, that little point is a lot smaller. It's about half this size. So the sear only has a ledge about half the width of the other one to sit on. So it takes a lot less effort to make it move. That makes the trigger actually a little bit better. Well, at least better for the range. I don't know if it'd be better for self-defense, but we'll test it after I get everything put back in. So just imagine that being a little bit smaller right there, and that's what the race hammer is like. This little point right here is what I'm talking about. That's what's smaller on the other hammer. The sear kind of like sits right up under it like this, and since that ledge is smaller on the other, there's less resistance. Okay, now we'll put the little firing control unit here back in, and to make it easier, I've taken this little spring right here and moved it from its slot and shoved it all the way over to the side and up on top of this, so hopefully that'll make it easier to put back in. I don't have to pry that up while I'm doing it. All right, should just sit in there, then I'll put the right side safety back on and push it onto that little thingamabobber. Now let's pry the little spring back up again because it went back down, and put the other side in. It's the most difficult gun I've ever had to work on in my entire life. Now let's try to put this side of the safety back on. It ain't going in easy. Most difficult gun I've ever f***ing worked on. Mother. Okay, I've had this thing in and out about 10 times now. I actually had to resort to looking up something on the internet as far as putting this back together. I got this far without looking anything up, but this time I had to look something up. It appears you got to stick a little pin in here and push this little spring thing back to get these to go back in all the way, get the safety back in. I've been trying, can't get it all the way in, so let's see if this does it. Ah, got it. Okay, everything works except that I can't put the safety on. This is not good. Not good. Okay, one little problem I was having once I got it back together, the safety wouldn't go on. And it's because this little piece right here that makes contact with the little part that keeps the safety from going on while the gun is not cocked. Well, since that hammer has a little bit of a different notch in it, it's making that sear set a little bit higher. So or actually it's making the sear set a little bit lower. So I actually got to take a little bit of this off so it won't be catching that little leg on the sear that keeps the safety from going on. Okay, just taking off that little piece of metal did the trick. The safety is now working because it is properly seated, properly fitted for that race hammer. Oh, a little word of warning, make sure you put that little leg on that spring back down, or while you're putting your slide back on, your left safety will fall off. That wasn't fun. What the f was that? Just shot across the damn room. Oh, I see you. It's a little motherfucking mouse. Hey, little mouse. Quit making noise. You're scaring the shit out of me. I'm thinking things are springing across the room. You better go hide before Maisie gets out here. It's one thing about having your studio right off your garage. You end up with mice every now and then. But I can live with it. I like mice. Okay, it is back on there, and I'm going to have to say, for a simple task like changing a hammer, this is the most difficult time I ever had. There's too many little tricks and, gimmicky things in this gun that you have to know how to do to put it back together. It just isn't worth it working on this gun. I would not want to work on these very much. Maybe if I had more experience with them and it wasn't the first time, it'd be a little better. But man, this gun is overly complicated. But the hammer's on there now, and it looks much better. I much prefer this angled hammer here to that, that stupid round hammer that was on there before that I had to look at. The round hammer just didn't look right on this gun. This looks right. Now, having that race hammer on there does seem to have made a little bit of a difference with the trigger. The double action trigger seems a little bit lighter and a little bit crisper, but the main difference is with the single action trigger. This thing is very light, very crisp now. Once it hits the wall right there, bam, it's just under 3 pounds. It's ranging anywhere from 2 pounds, 14 ounces, right up to 3 pounds for that single action trigger pull. That's like a really nicely tuned 1911. So if you want a lighter, more responsive, crisper trigger, I would definitely recommend one of these race hammers here. It really does make a difference. But does it make it too light for concealed carry? I don't think so. It's no lighter than most 1911s, and it's got a manual safety and a firing pin block, so what more could you want? So in the end, I'm glad to say, even though this was a very difficult installation and a stressful installation, and it was stressful, I had to take a few mental health breaks while I was actually doing this install. And this is coming from a guy that almost put themselves into a stress-induced coma once, taking a Ruger Mark III apart. So I know difficult installations. This was pretty hard, but it was worth it because it looks much better and it functions better. So now I'm happy with the way the gun looks and the way it functions. And one thing I will add before I go here is you'll notice that the wood grips are on it. Not too long ago, I did a video where I asked people, should I put the wood grips on this gun or leave them on the black gun? And should I put those MARSOC grips on this gun or put them on the black gun? And people overwhelmingly voted for the wood on the stainless and the MARSOC on the black gun. And since I always do what you people vote, you voted for it fair and square, so I'm obligated to do it, I have put the wood on this one for good now, and the MARSOC is now on the black like you saw earlier in this video. So like I already said, I'm happy with the way the gun functions, and I'm happy with the way the gun looks, and part of those looks are the wood grips and the new hammer. After all is said and done, even though that was a little bit of work, I'm glad I did it, because I made a gun that was pretty great already, even better.